Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe below on YouTube. A lot of good content every single day coming out. And today we have another interesting series or segment. It's just blowing my mind that 2 years later, after the Giants traded Odell Beckham Jr., he's on the waiver wire. Like, he's on the market. The Giants have receivers going down like flies. And we're sitting here like, scratching my head. I don't know if this is a good idea or not. And Anthony and I are on opposite sides of the equation on this one. But what a storyline it would be for him to get traded just to end up back with the Giants. And I feel like OBJ was born to be a Giant. I feel like he was always born to be on this team and be electric in New York City. And obviously a lot of baggage came with that. And I think, he's matured to a degree. He forced his way off the Browns. But I got to say, after watching all the freaking passes that Baker Mayfield missed him on, I would leave too, man. It was ugly. He missed a lot of throws to OBJ, a lot of deep throws too that he just underthrew. It was pretty bad. But with a different quarterback, I don't know if that's Daniel Jones or not. Maybe he could be his old self again. Of course, the injuries have derailed his career significantly up to this point. But we want to discuss it. What is the possibility, the chance, the contemplation that OBJ would be an option for the Giants on the waiver wire? They have the sixth waiver selection, I believe. So he's definitely in the realm of them maybe putting a claim in. I know the Detroit Lions have the number one and they're desperately in need of receivers. So they also could be looking to maybe acquire OBJ, but knowing OBJ, he'll be like, I'm just not going to go and I'll wait for them to cut me, whatever it might be. So we'll see what happens there, Anthony. But for the idea that OBJ, could make this comeback, could go full circle. The Giants got a first-round pick, Dexter Lawrence, a third-round pick in O'Shane Ximines, and Jabril Peppers from that deal. Full circle, he ends up back on the Giants, after that massive contract, and they don't really owe him any money. I think the Browns are eating the majority of the remainder of his salary, so there's that. He's not going to cost anything really for the new team. What are you feeling about OBJ? What is your first, impression about this all unfolding in front of our eyes, and would you welcome him back?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting topic. Is it going to happen? Is Odell Beckham Jr. going to return to the Giants? If I had to bet on it, definitely not. I don't think it will. I think there's so many reasons why it won't happen. But we are going to discuss, should it? Do we want it to? I know, Alex, you're on the no-Dell train. You don't want to see Odell return to the Giants. I'm on a little bit of a different train, man. I actually would enjoy to see Odell Beckham Jr. make his return to the New York Giants. And hear me out. I know, I sound like a crazy man. I do. But there are definitely some reasons to consider this, okay? Odell Beckham Jr. is loved by half of the fan base, hated by the other half, right? But he leaves, he goes to Cleveland, it doesn't work out. Now he gets cut, and he's going to be on the waiver wire. The Giants have the sixth spot on the waiver claim priority, right? Here's my idea for pretty much any team that considers making a claim on Odell Beckham Jr., Giants included. If you claim Odell and he plays well for these final 8 games of the season, there were teams at this trade deadline that tried to trade for him. Why didn't they? Because they couldn't take on his contract. The New Orleans Saints could not afford to trade for Odell Beckham Jr., but they wanted to, and they tried really hard to. They just couldn't make it happen because of the contract. So now that his contract is really small because he reworked his deal with the Browns to make it easier for him to leave and go to another team, his contract is very cheap and affordable. So say for these final 8 weeks he were to return to the Giants, or he were to play for the Lions or the Jets, anyone, and play really well in those 8 games and look like maybe even a fraction of his old self, well, then you're talking about getting to the offseason and flipping him for a draft pick. You're talking about the Saints saying, hey, we're still interested in Odell. We still have a need at wide receiver. What about a 4th-round pick? What about a 5th-round pick? Right? And he's so cheap that you can now make that move. So for the Giants, the number one thing is injuries at wide receiver. We have plenty of them. Kadarius Toney's probably going to play on Sunday, and they're saying that it looks like Kenny Golladay might play on Sunday as well. So we're getting healthy again. But we still have Sterling Shepard, who's going to be out. He's dealing with quad injury on top of the other injuries that he's been dealing with throughout the year. So there's still injuries at wide receiver. The whole receiving core is banged up. Saquon's still banged up, and he's not playing this week. So the Giants do have a need for an additional playmaker. Now, I'm not saying that Odell Beckham Jr. would step in and be some electric, season-changing playmaker. No, but this is an opportunity for the Giants and for Odell to reap benefits of a bad situation, right? Make the most of a bad situation. Odell could come back to a fan base that already recognizes who he is, knows who he is, still has fans and supporters here. He could garner that support, reintroduce himself to the league as a new person, make a name for himself again, because his name has honestly been spoiled a little bit compared to what it used to be. He used to be held in very high regard in the NFL fan base, but now not so much. He rejoins the Giants. Say this hypothetical scenario happens. He rejoins the Giants, plays a really good football for these final 8 games, catches 4 touchdown passes, gets 500 yards in these final 8 games, right? Say that were to happen. Okay, then you go into the offseason as the Giants. Do you build around him or do you trade him for a pick? Now you have options. You can gain some extra draft capital for a new GM coming in, or you can continue to build around him if the new GM coming in, like potentially Louis Riddick, who people think is the favorite. Louis Riddick likes Odell Beckham Jr. and wanted him to stay on the Giants. So he might actually want to keep Odell. So now you're giving that future GM some options. He can trade him for a pick. He can keep him around, build around him. And then let's say that Odell Beckham does return to form. Well, then you've got Odell Beckham Jr., a good version of him, plus Kadarius Toney, whose playing style is pretty similar, and he can learn from Odell and learn how to run better routes. Then you've also still got Sterling Shepard, who maybe you could trade him instead of Odell if Odell is playing better. Still got Darius Slayton, or you could trade him because now you have Odell and you have Kenny Galladay. Look at the options that this could bring to the team. I understand it's a very unrealistic scenario. It's not going to happen, but this is why I think that it should. There's injuries at the Giants receiver position, and it is one of those situations where the Giants could go in with a low risk, monetarily speaking. It's a low money risk, and they could reap one day a high reward if Odell Beckham Jr. were to play well, and they could trade him during the offseason for a draft pick.
I get where you're coming from, and there's two things I have to say. The only reason the Giants would bring back Odell Beckham Jr. is not because they have injuries at wide receiver. The only reason they bring him back is to re-engage the fans for the rest of the season. That is the only reason they bring back OBJ, because right now, everybody is checked out. Everybody's like, this team sucks. Joe Judge, your headset's still broken, bro. You are still really messing up your timeouts. You're still, the discipline of this team is a disaster. This team is a losing team. And OBJ is not going to make them a winning team, in my opinion. The only thing that OBJ does is re-engage the fans for the rest of the season so that we don't completely stop watching by week 11. That is the only thing OBJ brings.
But I'll say, I'll be re-engaged. I have a whole,
yes,
three.
Absolutely.
I have three jerseys. I have 3 jerseys in my closet that I haven't worn in 2 years, and now I could finally wear them again because Odell Beckham Jr. would be back in that scenario. It would be a money move. I would be re-engaged. And listen, remember back in 2015, 2017, or not 17 because he was injured, but 2015 and 2018 when the Giants were bad, even his rookie season 2014, the Giants were bad and they were losing most of their games. But I was tuning in, excited every week just to watch Odell Beckham Jr. play. Now, I know he's not the same player that he once was, but he still has such a great, charismatic, personality. I know a lot of people don't like it. I personally did like his personality, and I liked the storylines going into every single week. What's Odell Beckham Jr.'s next touchdown dance going to be? I know a lot of people don't care about that, and the Giants kind of aren't the team that would care about that. But I don't know. I think it's enjoyable. I would like to see him make a return, and yes, it would re-engage me because think about how interesting that is. Odell Beckham Jr. leaves on kind of bad terms with the Giants and comes back 2 years later to try and reprove himself to the league. I mean, that is such a phenomenal storyline. You cannot write one better than that. You can make a freaking NFL movie about that. I would love to see it happen just for that storyline alone, but then also for all of the reasons that I listed earlier about how it could actually benefit Odell and benefit the New York Giants from an organizational roster building standpoint.
Look, there's another factor that goes into this too. Who's to say that OBJ isn't just going to be like, why aren't they passing me the ball here too? You know what I mean? Our offensive line is so bad. They give Daniel Jones no time in the pocket. Why would we expect OBJ to suddenly be getting all these targets and him not have the same exact reaction he did with the Browns, who have a fantastic offensive line? He can run deep balls. The quarterback just wasn't making the throws. I think there's just too many mouths to feed when they are healthy. Like Kenny Galladay, when he's healthy, he's just coming back now. Like, unless he gets injured again, which is totally possible. Kadarius Toney, obviously, they're trying to get more worked into the system. And I get like OBJ coming here. You have OBJ, Kadarius Toney, and you also have Kenny Galladay. But do we even trust Jason Garrett to get him the ball, to scheme good routes for him, let alone push the ball downfield? Because Daniel Jones doesn't have the time for it. You still have John Ross, you still have Darius Slayton. I just think there's too many mouths to feed, and when they are healthy, and it's kind of coming to this pinnacle where they are getting healthier now. So it's like maybe 2 weeks ago when we had Colin Johnson starting and Dante Pettis starting, I'd be like, this makes a lot more sense. But right now, our offensive line is trash without Andrew Thomas, and there's no way OBJ is getting any significant targets, so he's already going to be pissed off from day one. Reason number 2, we suck. He doesn't want to the reality is he's going to go to a bad team. Waiver wire claims that are this high right now are going to shit teams, so he doesn't really have a choice but to go to a shit team. Might as well go to New York, I guess. Again, the offensive line is a disaster, so I don't really feel like, he can go to Detroit and be the star there. He can be the
I
star in
think
Detroit,
I think
get
he will
targets
go
from
to
Jared Goff.
Detroit too.
I think so too.
I think that this whole thing is a fun, interesting discussion, but at the end of the day, I think Detroit's going to claim him as the number one waiver priority, and he's just going to have to eat that, go there, play on a crappy team again, and hopefully do exactly what I mentioned earlier. Prove himself to be a good player through these final 8 weeks and hopefully move on to greener pastures in the offseason via trade. I think that's exactly what's going to happen to Odell. Unfortunately, because I do want to see his career succeed, it's a shame to me that it didn't work out in Cleveland. But I do think ultimately we're talking about this. Should the Giants put in a claim? Even if they do, I'm not convinced that they're even going to have the opportunity to get him.
Yeah, they probably won't. But let's say for like football god's sake, he ends up back with the Giants. The only thing his only purpose in this entire debate is to re-distract us from the shit season and shit football that we're watching right now. The other distraction that we've had all year is them shoving Eli Manning content down our throats and Super Bowl winning videos and clips and Eli Manning jersey retirements and
I love
retiring.
it though. I love
Oh,
the
no,
Eli
it's
content.
oh no, I love it too. But it's straight up a distraction. I'm like they're straight up. They're like, we got to start producing more. Sean O'Hara, Eli Manning, like this is all great content, but it's really just a ploy to distract us from what they're putting on the field during the Super Bowl game. They bring everybody in and they put together the most embarrassing game of the season against the Rams, and they completely distract us at halftime with all these Super Bowl guys and even Amani Toomer's out here like they look like they don't give a shit. They don't look like they don't care. You know what I mean? Like this is where we're at. OBJ coming back is just the final chapter in a storybook of Dave Gettleman's tenure here. Trading him, bringing him back, and one of the only reasons I want them to actually do it is because I want to have to see Dave Gettleman stare that man in the face and say, "Welcome back to the Giants" after trading his ass. I want to be on the fly on the wall when Dave Gettleman has to do that because that's the funniest shit I've ever seen. Him having to look at OBJ and OBJ like, he's like, we didn't sign him to trade him. Trades him like a freaking week later. I just want to see Dave Gettleman have to reintroduce him to the team. That's it. And then fire that man to the sun because there's some people still apologizing and justifying the retention of Dave Gettleman here. And we're talking about, I think he has 17 wins in 4 years. Like we're past the point of Dave Gettleman justifications, right? Like we can pretty much say the injuries, yes, have been a big part. But he says injured players get injured, and then he signs injured players. It doesn't make any sense to me. He signs Afadio Denebo. He signs Kyle Rudolph, who basically, they're still paying Afadio Denebo $1 million, and he's not even on the team, and even make the team. Then you have freaking Kyle Rudolph, who had just had his first touchdown catch last week. Guy looks like he's running in quicksand, and like he is so washed, it's bad. And then it's just a disaster in multiple fronts. The outside linebacker core vastly misutilizing resources there. Interior defensive line, he's pretty much dumped a first-round pick. He's dumped $20+ million on Leonard Williams. And meanwhile, we need outside linebackers, so he missed there big time. There have been no injuries there aside from Lorenzo Carter, who was playing poor before that. So, I don't want to hear any excuses there either. So, like when we're looking at this, OBJ is a distraction to the fans, which I am totally fine with. Do I want him here? I don't think we need him here. I think that we're going to, think about the New York media guys. They're going to rip this guy to shreds again. They're going to rip him to shreds. They're going to make him look bad. They're going to make him look negative. We're going to have the Pat Leonards of the world stirring bullshit again. He already tried to do it with Kadarius Toney yesterday, saying, Joe Judge has to lay down consequences for what he said on Twitter. So, look, when you're laying down consequences for freedom of speech, you're a football coach, you're kind of crazy, bro. Like, he didn't say anything that he didn't say.
Pat
Like,
Leonard is so out of line for that, man. I could go on for so long. He's so out of line.
What Kadarius Toney said definitely was out of touch.
That was out of line. Kadarius was out of line for sure.
He was out of line.
But Pat Leonard is also out of line for thinking that he can discipline.
Shit, man.
Pat Leonard thinks that he can discipline NFL players. Pat Leonard thinks that he can discipline them. Pat Leonard, shut up. That's not your job. Leave him alone. Like, I understand he's screwed up, but that's Judge's job to handle.
Look, Kadarius Toney's 22 years old, right? I'm 25. And I feel like sometimes my brain thinks like a 10-year-old. But I think Kadarius Toney was just way out of touch. I think that he just said something, didn't really think about it, and he just left it there. And I think that he made a mistake. And Joe Judge said, like, he's a smart kid. Like, we've talked, and he's respectful, and he gets it. I just think the way he articulated what he was trying to say was a little bit poor. And I will say, I definitely did not like what he said. I do not agree with him 100%.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
For reporters saying that, telling a head coach that he has to punish somebody, that's not your role, man. Like, stay out of that shit, man. Stay out of their business.
Exactly.
And he did the same shit for OBJ. And I guarantee you, if he came back here, we will see that shit
Oh,
again. And we will be sitting here 2 weeks into the season with OBJ, like, holy shit, this is why he left. This is why he got traded. Like,
fair
it's
enough.
just nonstop. The New York media is some guys, I like a lot of them, but some of them are just some freaking swine. So it's not good.
I'll say I think that the New York media is severely lacking diversity, and I think that's what a lot of it stems from. That's the number one thing that I'll say. I think it's always a culture shock when a young player like this enters the New York Giants because you see the way that they treat these players, and it's not right. And listen, I don't agree with anything that Kadarius Toney said. He's 22 years old. I'm 20 years old. I'm on a college campus exactly where he would be if he wasn't an NFL player. I've heard players around that same age, 21, 22, say things much worse about the situation. Okay? Seriously. I understand it wasn't a mature thing for him to say. He is a kid. He's my age. He's 22 years old. I'm not going to sit here and stand over Kadarius and condemn him. He's literally like a peer to me, okay? I'm 20, he's 22, he's older than me, but we're in the same age range. So I can't sit over here and say, "Oh, you got to grow up." I got plenty of growing up to do as well. And Joe Judge even said it. If he was 22 years old, he wouldn't want everything from his life documented either. I'm a little more cautious with what I put
I've
on
done
social
stupid
media.
shit, bro.
We've
I've
all
done
done
stupid
very
shit in my
stupid
life.
things. We've all done and said very stupid things and tried to grow from them and become better people and change from it, right? Kadarius Toney, he's 22. He said something. He might not yet understand what's wrong with what he said, but one day he will. He'll figure it out and hopefully never make a mistake of any similar caliber, okay? I pray that that never happens. Really, what I think Kadarius Toney was trying to say, that was one of his close friends, Henry Ruggs. He was friends with Henry Ruggs. He's horrified by what happened, and he wants to pray for Henry Ruggs because he feels terrible about the situation, while also feeling terrible about what Henry Ruggs did and the life that he took, a dog and that lady Tina. He took some lives. It was horrible. He's sending prayers out for everybody involved. Obviously, Henry Ruggs needs prayer, okay? He needs help because what he did driving twice over the limit at 156 miles per hour was a choice, a decision. And usually when you make a decision that badly, it's because you're struggling with something mentally and you're not really all right. You're not all right if you're making a stupid, horrible decision like that, okay? And we can all condemn him because he needs to be condemned and he needs to be punished and he will be punished and disciplined by the state, right? Because he's going to be arrested and whatever and he's going to face these charges. But yes, he does need prayer, in my opinion, and so do all the families involved with this horrible tragedy. And so I do agree with what Kadarius's message was. He just does need to articulate it better and not put it out in just one small tweet that people can't reply to so everyone can freak out. This is a Joe Judge situation to handle anyway. The media trying to say, "Oh, he has to do this, he has to do that." No, he doesn't have to do anything that the media tells him to. The only person that Kadarius Toney has to listen to, the only people that he has to listen to are the coaching staff and God. That's literally it. That's all that Kadarius Toney has to answer to at the end of the day. If he wants to send prayers out for Henry Ruggs, that's his friend. He should be praying for him. We should be praying for anybody that's dumb enough to make a decision like this because they need help.
Yeah, I mean that's probably about it. And you know what? Um, this guy's got to hire some PR people, man. Like he is an up and coming star, making an impact in New York. OBJ should be the freaking like example of what not to do with the New York media. Shooting back at them, hosting crazy interviews and taking shots at Eli Manning. Like, you take a shot at Eli Manning in New York, you're writing a death sentence for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, straight up, you are destroying your own reputation. I think Kadarius Toney, like, he's young, he's got to mature. Randy Moss, if you saw, Randy Moss said to him before the game, he was like, "I'm really a big fan of yours, but keep your head on, man." Like, he was like, "Just keep your head on." And then right after the game, he tweets that. And it's like, damn it, Randy, you almost got to him. But I'll say, a little off topic here, I think that the New York media will find ways to destroy OBJ once again when he gets here, whether it's a complaint or, trying to spin a narrative. They made a ton of money off those stories, guys. Us reading those stories and us talking about those stories, they make a ton of money off that, and that is their goal. Nothing else. They don't give a shit about the team. That's why we're here, because we love the team. We want to talk. We want to tell you guys how it is, real talk. We don't want to be writing bullshit clickbait stories because they're trying to make money off of it. We want to be real with you guys. And like, I think that's the difference between what we're doing and some of the reporters are doing. And like I said, I like a lot of them. Some of them, though, I don't trust at all. And I don't like how they present headlines and whatnot, and very clickbaity stuff. So, just to last little thoughts on OBJ. Do I want him here? I don't think so. I think it'll end up being a net negative. However, I get it for the team if they want to re-engage the fans and keep the people interested for the rest of the season, because we are a crap team. And the really only reason I'm actually excited for games anymore is because of Kadarius Toney and what he's capable of doing and seeing his moves. Otherwise, what else is there to look at? You know what I mean? The offensive line sucks. The defense, I mean, they've been pretty bad for most of the season. The special teams sucks. And by the way, the special teams ranks 29th in the league per PFF. They've missed 12 tackles and had 26 tackles. And their punter, Riley Dixon, has been an absolute disaster. And Joe Judge is a freaking special team specialist. So there's that. His one thing he's supposed to be really good at, they're absolutely shit. They actually got worse since he's been here. So that's really interesting. And I'll tell you what, like, I'm kind of sitting here in a position like, I don't know, man. I don't really know. I guess OBJ here would definitely distract me for the rest of the season, but I don't really want him here because I think that we're going to end up sitting here talking about OBJ stuff all the time again and negative stuff. And it's just, I don't want to do it
Right.
anymore.
And that's exactly it. Would it be a good distraction or a bad distraction? I don't know which one it would be at the end of the day. For some people, I'm sure it would be a great distraction. They can be like, oh, I'm so excited to watch Odell again. I'm so happy he's back. Others are going to be like, oh my God, Odell is back. I'm not watching another game for the rest of the year. He's a polarizing, decisive player. And that's basically what it is at the end of the day. The Giants are going to have to make this decision not based on a PR standpoint, but on a roster building standpoint. Is it best for the roster? Is it going to add wins? Probably not that many. Is it going to give the Giants a chance down the line to improve their roster via trade, gaining draft capital? That's really what the Giants need to consider. Is that more important or less important than the PR, either dream or nightmare that they would gain from this situation?
Yeah, that's about right. But guys, let us know what you think in the comment section below. I know it's going to be very, very zesty today in the comments. I know a lot of people have their specific opinions, but I think we have a pretty good blend of reasons why and why not. To bring back OBJ if it's even possible. It would just be a freaking storyline ending, right? It's just a storybook ending, a fairy tale of him being traded and coming back to the Giants. I'm not sure I want to see that ending of that story, but we'll see how it goes. Let us know what you think in the comments. Make sure to subscribe as always on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Have a ton of new content coming out. Obviously, we'll be covering the game on Sunday against the Raiders. Got some good matchups there, of course. I think another one of their cornerbacks actually just got charged with injuring a girl or something in a car accident from a year ago. So I think that's popping out of the woodworks now. Lots of stuff going on in Vegas. I guess, interesting scenario over there. But, of course, Anthony wrote an article about Casey Hayward and how they should be avoiding him and who they should be targeting. But Derek Carr's having a hell of a year. So the defense is going to have to step up. We're going to need Kadarius Toney. You better believe he's in my starting lineup in fantasy this week. Kenny Golladay making a return, so we'll see how it goes. Of course, make sure to have a fantastic weekend. Let's enjoy Friday and Saturday evening. Make sure to subscribe. Big stuff on the way, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants video.